So good morning, everybody. Yes, Pascal, our moderator will open the floor. So thank you for joining. Pascal, you are on mute in case you want to.
Thank you, Christophe. Thank you, everybody. Welcome, everybody, for this first edition of the Global Encryption Day organized by ISOC. And today, we as Encryption Europe are part of this initiative and have organized this day of three interactive webinars or panels. So it should really be an interactive thing. So not only all of you listening, but also don't hesitate to interact, to react, ask questions, or put forward some ideas from your side. There are 3 roundtables that we will go through about 3 topics. The first one would be more about technology, the second one more around the topic of sovereignty, and the third one about law enforcement and the civil society, so the link between these. And all this, well, encryption is here to secure for the good, but we also know that we need to help enforce to combat the bad and obviously protect us from the ugly. So without further delay, let's start with the first roundtable, which is about the technology element. From IoT to quantum, will encryption still matter in the future? With me, I have 4 distinguished experts. First of all, Vincent Rijmen, professor at KU Leuven and co-inventor of the RS, the Advanced Encryption Standard, which was originally called Roundtable because it was Vincent Rijmen and his colleague Van Daal who developed this. It was some time ago. I remember that time, and it's still one of the main encryption standards used today in many products. So we're very happy to have Vincent here with us today. Then we have Péter Budai, VP product for Tresorit, one of the members of Encryption Europe, one of the latest members. Olivier, Croix, head of crypto at Thales, Belgium, another new member of Encryption Europe. Ludovic, Perret, professor at Paris Sorbonne and co-founder of CryptoNext. And myself, Pascal Steichen, CEO of Security within Luxembourg, which will moderate this session today. So let's start with the first topic. To all of you, what has been the biggest change in encryption during these last years from your perspective? Change can be good, can be bad, can be innovative, whatever. Give us your opinion about how you lived the evolution of encryption in the last years.
And so, well, I will maybe start with this question. So I will take my my view as an academic and also as someone who did a startup. So first, to reply maybe to the first questions, yes, I think that encryption is going to be important and more important than ever. So the importance will increase. And so the change that we saw, at least from my side, is that current public key standards was designed in the end of the 80s. The scientific community and the crypto community developed a lot. And now we are arriving at a point where these public key standards need to be replaced for several reasons. And so what we observe is that there is some topics that was considered as purely academic and are now shifting to the industrial world and are of great interest. So one topic, which is my favorite one, is post-quantum encryption, which is one. But another one is homomorphic encryption, something that we believe was impossible 10 years ago, that it's coming. And maybe the last thing is all techniques related to multi-party computation. So all of these three topics was kind of very theoretical topics and are now having a great impact on encryption, and probably will continue to have.
Thank you. Maybe Vincent from your side.
Okay, I see two important developments. One is that due to the proliferation of the IoT, much more data and information is being collected and processed, also sensitive data. And then the second evolution is that the adoption of the GDPR actually makes companies responsible for all data that they collect and process to keep it safe using state-of-the-art methods, and that nowadays means encryption. So the use of encryption will increase very much in the next years. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Vincent. Maybe Peter or Olivier from your side, being our, I would say, in the encryption service provider area, how do you see this? Is this what Vincent just said, really the use of encryption increasing? Do you see requests from your customers to do more?
If I can give an answer for us, we are working in critical system, and more as the system are more and more interconnected, we have to protect more and more, not only the confidentiality, but also the authenticity, integrity of the exchange between systems. And 10 or 15 years ago, it was not the same, because the system were isolated, and now we have more and more to protect, and then to introduce crypto everywhere, from IoT to critical systems. I think it's the new trends in the future. It was a new trend. It's a trend we have to continue.
Yes, and like from a service provider's perspective, it's also very good to see that encryption is becoming more and more widely adopted and widely known and the sought property of a solution, and especially it's true for end-to-end encryption, and that people are looking for and more conscious about their choice of service providers or even consumer products regarding encryption. But I still see that as encryption is a very complex topic, and it's a bit beyond where the common knowledge of people stands. I see that we have still a lot to do in the education perspective to make people know what encryption, what is it capable for, why is it important to apply to all of the areas of their life, basically.
Thank you. What about the I would say the real, even more future technologies that we are looking into, be it quantum encryption, be it homomorphic techniques to encryption? Are these things that we see already in the market, or not yet? Is it still more at university level? What's your viewpoint on these?
No, it's not at all anymore at the university level. So of course, some research and has to continue on this topic. So after the level of maturity for all of these technologies are not the same, but now you can find for all these topics a company which are working on. And so let's speak for post-quantum cryptography. There is something quite important that is going to happen, is that we are in a standardization process. We will renew public key standards. So it's something which is really huge, because this is not something that we did since 40 years. So it's equivalent to replace DES by AES. So it's really something important. And so with new standards coming, we will see more and more post-quantum crypto, and it's going to be used widely. And already a lot of companies are working on that topic. And so for homomorphic encryption, also so of course it's not perfect, but we saw already application of homomorphic encryption. And well, MPC is even more mature. So we saw application of MPC in several places.
Any other one want to react on this, or should we take one of the questions from the audience? Yeah, Peter, you wanted to react?
It's important that Ludovic mentioned standards, as I see that standards are like it's one of the best ways to push providers to adopt new technology and new algorithms, new capabilities in their products. So I also see with delight that the standardization process is also try to track the new inventions in the field of cryptography.
Talk about standards. Vincent, the algorithm you developed has become the de facto standards. What is your experience with standards, or how is your view on standards when it comes to encryption?
Yeah, as Peter already started to say, I think standards are essential, in particular in the field of encryption. Because whereas in other fields, people can try to be compatible or almost compatible with one another, different vendors from different products. In encryption, there exists no such thing as being almost compatible. You're fully compatible or you're not compatible. You have to use exactly the same encryption or decryption ciphers if you want to interoperate. So that's why standards are necessary. Secondly, it happens to be, or it appears that standardization is also used as a kind of certification, basically, nowadays. That when people use international standards, they can have some trust that this will be a good quality encryption.
Yes, you mentioned certification. That's clearly the next level, the next step after the standards, so that will implement the standards. Olivier, maybe from your side, I'm sure you are looking into a lot of these certifications, or your products will have to pass different levels. So tell us a bit about your experience in this.
Exactly. For us, the certification, and for the critical system, for the government system, the certification, it's a major point. It's the domain on which we are working on. And the certification depends not only on the standard, as said before, but also on the implementation on the system. And then if we don't trust of the implementation, even if we have a good crypto, a good standard, it's not a good product. And that's why the certification following the FIPS or the common criteria, or in the future Cyber Act, is very important. And I think it's a point on which the companies have to focus in the future to have a certification, a good level of certification, depending on the EL 7, EL 5, I don't know which level we have to go. Here we are going to work on EL 4. I think it's for me, it's perhaps the more important before the standard, to have to trust the deployment and the development of the solutions.
And so maybe I would like to come back to the standard issue. So it has been said that yes, indeed, for the final user, so standard is important because it gives you some confidence in the cryptos that you are using, which is a very sensitive topic, and about interoperability, which is very important. But also from the side of a government or for a company, it's also very important. So we have questions touching sovereignty and also industrial advantages and so on. So this is another aspect. And so with the post-quantum standardization ongoing, so we have a typical example of this kind of things. So the process is almost finished. So we are going to have the US NIST standardization organism, which will define the next standards. And so as a matter of fact, most of the algorithms submitted to the NIST competition were from Europe and funded in European projects. So this means that as we can see with the work of that initiated Vincent, we have a huge expertise in Europe about the design of standards. But still, what we see is that after this level, so we have the standardization of the algorithm. So we have some good academic work, but I would say from an industrial perspective and the European perspective, there is probably a lack of, I would say, maybe not commitment, but not taking well into account that standardization is a tool of soft power, and it's very important. And so I would say that I'm quite involved in several standardization body, and for me, it's quite a pity that knowing the expertise that we have in Europe, we have no clear direction at the European level on what we want to do typically on standardization of post-quantum crypto. And for me, it's quite a pity. So I'm not saying that nothing is moving. So there is a lot of individual initiative, but there is not a global direction of what Europe should do on the standardization of post-quantum crypto. And so for me, it's quite a pity. It should not be, because what will happen is that, basically, everything will go from US, and after we will adopt all what US say. I'm not saying that what is done by NIST is not very good, but we should consider the question.
Okay, interesting challenge given here, Ludovic, from your side. I think we can all try to make sure that at the European level we get further. There are many, I would say, working groups, standardization, which probably would be the good place to be. So let's take this challenge, all of us, and see where we can make sure this happens in the near future. But even though there are no real clear standards yet when talking about post-quantum, there are already businesses having developed technology, and you are one example. So how do you navigate with this in this having no clear standards, as you mentioned? Is there still already market traction?
Yeah, there is a market traction, because in fact the demand is much bigger than the number of players that are today, because changing its crypto is something that need to be prepared. So even if you have not the standards, you need to prepare this transition. And there is also something which is recommended by standardization by national security agencies, that you want to do when you integrate post-quantum crypto, you do this as a hybrid. So this means that you are not going to replace the current crypto standards. You are going to do an addition of this new post-quantum crypto layer. So yes, there is a market. So people are, of course, it's in specific vertical, but people understand that they need to be prepared, because in fact, standard is going to be, the algorithm is going to be defined next year. So now we are going to switch completely. We are entering in a new world where standard will be there. So yeah, for us, yes, there is traction, and people need some support to do this transition.
Thank you. I see a few comments in the chat that are looking into the more user perspective of all this. So standards is a very important. Standardization is a very important element. But it's often done between experts. Certification is the first is the most easy way to make sure that the people out there, the users, know that standards have been respected. But what other means would be relevant for you to make sure that users know that they have a good encryption in their product? Because there are a lot of encryption mechanisms, some very good ones, and a lot of them not so good. So are there initiatives, or how do you do to basically show that you use the good encryptions?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have standards. Solutions, algorithms, like from academics, take some time to reach the standards level, and from the standards level, they will eventually reach these certifications, and from the certifications, they will reach the legislations and the compliance requirements of governments, and then at the end of individual companies. So like for us, standards and certifications, most of the times it's about ticking boxes and filling questionnaires. And I have to say that it still takes a lot of time. The industry have like a very big momentum when things are changing, and it still takes a lot of time to for a new standard, a new algorithm to reach these compliance requirements of individual players or companies, customers especially. Yeah, so even if the individuals understand the benefits of new encryptions, I think this is why standards and certifications are important, that it may like make this cycle a bit quicker by new algorithms reach the levels when they will be eventually accepted by customers and companies.
As you say, algorithms is very important. There are good ones, there are less good ones. But even if you have a good algorithm, it needs to be implemented into a product, into software, etc. And there also we have seen a lot of issues with this. So maybe trying to take two perspectives. On one side, Vincent, from your side, you are more on the side developing algorithms, etc. Are you involved in or are companies getting back to you to better understand the algorithms, to better implement them, or how does this work?
Yeah, sometimes we are contacted by companies mostly it's for the algorithms that we developed. They want to know if we can make faster implementations for them. Sometimes for some products, it's also important that the implementations resist so-called side channel attacks, that people who measure the power consumption cannot extract secret keys. We also assist with that. And sometimes we're asked to evaluate algorithms that were designed by other people to see if they are of adequate strength. But yeah, this is typically not for mass market products, but for isolated niches of people who want to deviate from the standard algorithms for various reasons.
Thank you, Vincent. Olivier, from your side, the other side of the coin, as from a provider side, how do you address this when trying to get new algorithms into the products?
Clearly, we are not we're not focused on the standard because we have specific algorithms to deploy. But what I would like to say that the algorithm is one part of the security part of the product, but it's not it's not the main one. because we have a lot of security features to implement around the algorithms, how to provide the key, how to keep the key secret, and a lot of things like that. And it's so important, and the process to develop also is so important. And then we have to know that the algorithm is an important part. We could have a bug in the implementation, but if the key are not well transferred to the system, are not well protected, the system is null. And then we have to take everything into account. I think it's perhaps the main complicated thing, to take all the phase of the development of a product into account for the security and the safety.
Yeah, I cannot agree more with Olivier here.
Go ahead, Péter.
I cannot agree more. So as Olivier said, standards algorithms are just covering the like one portion of the implementations, key management and the whole architecture above the and that's wraps cryptographic algorithms. They need some kind of holistic approach to have every part of them like implemented with the same level of rigorousness, and also it needs and they need to be validated. They need to be shown that they are also like up to the high standards of the algorithm itself. So if the key is hanging somewhere next, your lock can be any strong, but like people will just get into your apartment.
I think, if I can add something, it's the main difference between a prototype, a demonstration that we could do with an algorithm, and the product ready to be sold, who can be protected everywhere, even in the algorithm and all the feature around the algorithm.
And yes, to come back to your question about the customer point of view when you introduce. So there is, I would say, a security perspective, and you saw with the discussion, so it's quite technical, and so it's it's the job of an expert and the company to guarantee security. And so after you have something easy to show, for customer, because not everybody can understand all the technical details. So it's certification and standardization. But the other points that the user want, sometimes, most of the time, he wants that it's fast, and he wants that it's very easy to use. And so from the user perspective, whatever the complication and how complicated everything is behind, for him, at the end of the day, it has to be very easy. And in fact, he should not notice what is going on. And so this is what is difficult for a crypto company like us, because what you do is security, and it has to be usable. And so it's not visible. And in fact, it's a feature. It's not visible. It's something that you don't notice, but you are secure. And it's easy to use.
Yeah, if I may argue just a bit, the general concept is I agree with, but I wouldn't say that simply that it needs to be usable and all the complexities needs to be hidden. I would say, put it that way, that it needs to be easy enough so the benefits of having a secure solution will outweigh the disadvantages that may be caused by the complexity. It's obvious is I may say 80% to the usability side and 20% for the complexity. But again, I just want to reflect on my previous thought that's why education of the end users is very important, that they see that yes, that your data will be secure. This solution is secure. It has some price, but you need to be conscious that you are choosing a secure solution instead of an unsecure one.
Thank you. Let's take the next half hour of the discussion to go into a bit more practical elements. On the one side, the IoT, the Internet of Things, and on the other side, the end-to-end encryption. So two, in a certain way, buzzwords in the world of encryption. So let's start about IoT, which is something that is really on the move with the so-called Industry 4.0. And no later than this morning, I was in another workshop discussing about cybersecurity in Industry 4.0 and the challenges in this area, more the operational aspects. But when we look at this at the more technology encryption side, Vincent, on your side, where do you see today today or future real challenges also when it comes to algorithms, when thinking IoT, when thinking, I would say, embedded devices and edge computing, all these elements? Where are today's challenges, and maybe which ones are already close to be solved?
Yeah, so the challenges are, of course, in the places where you wouldn't expect them. I've been involved, for example, in securing the Galileo signals used to navigate cars around Europe or around the world in the future, where the main constraint is the number of bits that you have available every second in these signals. So which means you can have only 20 bits every second available to secure the signal, which means you have to deploy encryption methods that are totally different from what we use on the internet. Similar in some embedded devices, I can imagine the consumption of power is very important. At other places, there is power enough, but we have a problem of getting rid of the heat caused by computations. So we have to take care how many computations we actually do during our encryption. It's all this wide range of environments that are different from the default internet that still require our attention, I think.
Thank you, Vincent, for this. That's definitely interesting. The challenge, low energy power, heat consumption, and all these things. Olivier, maybe on your side, how is your involvement in IoT? Where do you see challenges or maybe already solutions?
No solution, not yet. The difficulties for me should be the power consumption if they are autonomous, because if you have to make a lot of calculation, it's sometimes difficult with the batteries and the bandwidth, and how to guarantee also the integrity of the IoT. As soon as you have some critical system, you have to be sure that you can have no modification on the IoT, and that to be sure the signal sent or received to the IoT the authenticity is controlled, and there is no force or no force IoT instead of the real one. I think the criticality is perhaps there for me. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Péter, Ludovic, from your side?
Yeah, well, in fact, so when you say IoT, so there is a lot of different types of IoT. So if you are in industrial systems, so you have IoT which are quite powerful. So a smartphone is kind of IoT, and it's also very powerful. But if you think about a smart TV or smart fridge and so on, of course you have less computer power, but maybe also less security needed. And so one of the challenge, at least when I saw post-quantum crypto, is that well, all in all, the objects are going to be bigger than what we have today. And so especially in constrained environment, it's going to be challenging to adopt a protocol and to to find a good and secure implementation of new standards for this device. And this is one of the big questions for the next 5 to 10 years.
And what I also see like as a challenge, how can we solve that IoT devices that's going to be like millions or billions of them going to be up to date to the latest standards, security standards or encryption standards all the time, because usually they are just manufactured and then left alone, exposed to the internet. I think it's very important to design a secure way to keep them secure and updated into every device.
As I mentioned before, in the workshop this morning, there was a discussion around updating, around how to make sure that devices that are used in industrial production or that are installed in cars or in other places are getting updates fast enough in a coherent fashion, etc. How is this seen when it comes to encryption? How often, or there are sometimes key moments when the encryption libraries or encryption standards needs to be updated. Are you working on mechanisms, or how do you address these challenges, especially when I would say you have systems like in satellites, in Galileo, or in other systems where the access is not so immediate?
So for me, well, so that's a very difficult question, and I have no definitive solution. First, I have to say, and because of course we all want that our scheme, our device can be updated easily and in real time with latest standards. But we have also to keep in mind that update could be also a source of attack. So making update easy to also introduce some weakness. And so for some particular device, like I don't know, plane or maybe automotive. So it's by design that it's not easy at all, and in fact not planned to do any updates. So once you do the certification of everything, then everything is moving for 20 years, and you cannot touch it. So yes, it's indeed a difficult question, but well, I would say for most of the other application, we have to think about crypto agility, and so by design, allowing mechanism which allow to securely update. So typically, well, you have authentication, certificate, and so on. So you have the theoretical tools, but to deploy this at scale, well, of course, it's not easy.
Indeed, very interesting elements, and again, the industry representatives in the discussion this morning, they concluded that they, as industry, are in the process or are willing to adapt to the IT software development or digital industry to make sure that their production and lines get or can be updated more regularly, because there is a need when we talk software to have more faster and more relevant updates, to avoid the situation that you just mentioned, that there is a system that keeps stays in production 20 years without having been touched. So would you agree that this is the way to go, and welcome this development from I would say, the other side of the coin?
Like, I think that the thing that we need to notice that the devices or our planes or that were manufactured 20 years ago were designed for a much different environment. So back then there was no connectivity all the time to the internet. Even in manufacturing plants, they were connected into a local network, but not to the public internet. So we need to embrace and adapt these new environment, and I think so that because they are connected all the time, they need to be updated more regularly as well.
I'm sorry. When you have a certified solution, a certified product, make evolution, make modification in such equipment takes a long time because you have to modify if it's a software, we have to modify it, perhaps the hardware too. After that, to make a new certification and Delta certification. That's why for certified product, the updates are not these equipment are not often updated. And we have to be careful when we make modification to be sure that we don't open a new doors in the system.
Absolutely. Related to this, there is a very interesting question in the chat. Allow me to raise it. How often encryption standards will improve, or how often encryption standards will become obsolete? Basically, that's the question. And if some standards become obsolete, how does the industry make it possible to update, to switch up the new algorithms, and obviously, ideally, seamlessly? So maybe Vincent, if you could start with you on the pure algorithm side, and especially when talking about AOS, which is there since many years. How do you see it from your side? How often algorithms need to be updated, or are there algorithms which are so good that you say, okay, these can stay really for many years?
So I think for most of the algorithms that have been standardized, the security has been evaluated using the full state of the art. So it's often unlikely that another algorithm designed at the same time would be better. I mean, to say that if AES, for example, would get broken, most of the algorithms that were designed around that time would also be broken, or we wouldn't know how to make another encryption method that would then still remain secure. So in that sense, it's difficult to already have a replacement in place in advance, I think. So you should, of course, think of how you will replace it when the time is there, but to be fully prepared for it, that you just have to say everyone just switches in his software from option 1 to option 2, and that's very difficult, I think, because we don't know what to expect.
And so, yes, I agree with Vincent, of course. So in fact, we try to design algorithm while in crypto, so we want them to be secure for centuries. And so that's the goal. So it's impossible to break. So in theory, we want, once we design standards, which is kind of very difficult to do it. And after, once it's deployed, it's very kind of hard to replace it. So in general, unless if there is some unexpected event, like the quantum computer, which is coming, we don't want to replace standards. Because, well, to be clear, so AES today are public standards. They are deployed on billions and billions of devices. And so today, if AES and the public crypto is broken, then IT economy is down. So that's clear. So we don't want this situation.
That was pretty clear. And so when will this happen with the quantum computing speeding up slowly, to be honest? But what are your thoughts on this?
So I think, so you will heard, well, I'm not physician, so I don't know. So I just rely on what I saw. And so people say, well, maybe it's impossible. It will never happen. Some of them say, well, in 5 years, you will have that. So security agencies tend to say, well, after 2030, you should be careful. So it's a date. So I think when you saw the advancement on the topic and all the progress, so EU, China, US, so everything is pushing very hard to design a quantum computer, and so they are more and more powerful. So we can expect that at some point we will have a quantum computer. After the question is that when they are going to be, well, we have already a quantum computer. The question is when they are going to be sufficiently big to attack crypto. Well, we expect that this will happen much after new standards are deployed.
Okay, that's interesting. I am a physician, but I don't know either. So
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Would maybe like to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because in some sense, post-quantum crypto is maybe a bad choice of name, because you could also easily call it non-RSA cryptography. Perhaps too much of the public key cryptography is still based on this 40-year-old algorithm, like Ludovic said at the start of the workshop, and it's time to explore alternatives. And even if quantum computers never materialize, every few years you need to increase the key length of RSA, which means longer keys, longer signatures, which is problematic in particular for IoT devices. So it's good to explore alternatives, and even also to deploy them already, maybe not in all products at the same time, but at least in some products, just to see what are the pitfalls that you need to avoid.
Absolutely agree with this. The public key type of encryption are definitely the most, I would say, vulnerable in that sense. And there are also some projects that I have seen that where they are thinking about using quantum mechanisms to do the key exchange to be able to use, I would say, symmetric encryption standards, which are in that sense more preferred. So to try to combine these two elements, is that something that we would see more in the near future?
Yeah, so this is called well, quantum crypto, and so there is an ongoing project at the level of Europe. But I would say very much like I'm online with Vincent, is that so we use the same type of solution since many years, and now it's more than time to try different options than RSA, and so quantum crypto and quantum key distribution is also one of these options. So it's not good for everything, but it can be good on very specific topic, and at least we should progress on that, and we should implement and see how it behaves in practice.
Olivier, Peter, do you want to add something on this?
Maybe just like to emphasize the importance of making. So it's one thing that we have a new way, a new post-quantum cryptography, and the other point is that it needs to be usable in production. So it needs to be performance efficient and performance wise. It need to have it's important that the key lengths are not that enormous that it's difficult to handle in small devices or IoT, for example. So so yeah, one thing that we have the standard, and the other aspect is that it needs to be usable to be widely adopted, and it needs to have good implementations that are well tested and can be easily, plugged in to the applications.
Thank you. We have a few more minutes to take the last topic I wanted to address. I think it's a bit it will be fully enough. End-to-end encryption. We see a huge development or a huge dynamic around this topic of end-to-end encryption with applications telling that they do this, etc. So, how's your view? How's your view on this end-to-end encryption? Does it really exist? Are we there? Will there be end-to-end encryption for everybody at a certain point of time, or how do you see this evolution from your perspectives? I know if we maybe let's start with Vincent, and everybody can take a few moments to give your opinion on this.
So I think end-to-end encryption is security-wise, in theory, the best solution. The only problem is that it requires that the users know very well what they're doing, because they're at the end, and so they have to handle the security. And that's why in several cases, it might be better to look at protecting infrastructure, because there the experts can secure it and the users have to care less. So that's why I'm only moderately enthusiastic about this end-to-end encryption.
Okay. Olivier?
I'm not really in the case of end-to-end encryption. I think I don't have a specific advice or comments on that. I agree with Vincent, but I don't have nothing to add to that.
Okay, thank you. Peter, maybe?
Yeah, I think end-to-end encryption is here, and it's a very important step for people and companies to regain their privacy and the control over their information. Indeed, it requires some more care, and more care needs to be taken from the client side. But I believe that the clever solutions can like do the heavy lifting instead of the end users, and like with the proper usability, a proper client side applications, and then encryption is absolutely usable, and I think it's a very, very important step that we have end-to-end encryption. We speak about and talk about end-to-end encryption, and I really embrace that.
And so, yes, so for me, so it means that we are using more and more advanced cryptographic tools in production. So for me, it's beneficial, but just the people and the user should be careful about people saying that they are end-to-end, but they are not really end-to-end. So no, it's very much commercial word, and so well, it has to be taken with care if it's really end-to-end. And after, if it's really end-to-end, it has to be handled in a proper manner.
Yes, being really end-to-end or not, that's clearly a topic. And I think in the third roundtable of this Global Encryption Day, this topic will be addressed when talking with law enforcement, because they obviously would like to, I would say, find the criminals and get access to it. So so there is a huge challenge, and some governments also, I would say, impose specific backdoors, etc. So as you say, it's probably more an legal political challenge than a technical one. This end-to-end encryption topic.
No, it's also a technical challenge. So you have several ways to do that. It's both. There is really both aspects.
Absolutely. But on the technical side, we see products that work, but are they implemented the right way? Is the framework around also making it really end-to-end? That's, I would say, that's what I wanted to address. Then I think there was one more interesting question in the panel. Let's try to find it again. To close this up. Well, yeah, here is it. Do we have to resign ourselves to use good enough crypto, seeing that given enough time and money, currently available algorithms will be likely broken? What do you think about that?
I don't think so, because if you have correctly deployed and implemented crypto algorithms, then you have a reasonable level of security.
Depending if all the features around the algorithm and the security maintenance conditions are followed, because if you have a system in which the algorithm is trusted, it's good. If all the libraries used around the algorithms are not trusted and they have vulnerabilities, the system won't be secure. Then once again, and sorry to come back on this, it's not only the algorithms to take into account, or the system has to take into account for security.
Absolutely. We have reached 1500 almost. So I thank you very much for these interesting discussions. I hope that you all liked it, that also the audience liked the different topics that we addressed. And I give the hand back to Jean-Christophe to introduce the next panel. Thank you very much for listening.
Yes.